I'm coming to Boston. I'm bringing hell with me.
Promises kept by the Trump administration, bringing fear to several local communities.
I mean, last week was hit very hard, but it has been like that since he got into office.
ICE agents descending on Greater Boston, taking 370 people into custody. Border Czar Tom Homan says the 5-day operation started last Tuesday. Homan says the majority of the people in custody are, quote, significant criminals.
I grew up in this community, and that's not what I grew up with.
Gladys Vega with La Colaborativa in Chelsea says fear is now running through immigrant communities.
People are not showing up to doctor's appointments. They're not sending children to school. They're not going in.
In a stunning display of federal force, ICE agents encircled Boston University in an early morning operation, detaining and deporting more than 1,500 undocumented students within hours. The raid, executed with precision, left students, faculty, and administrators in disbelief. As national tensions over immigration continue to escalate, this unprecedented action has sparked protests, legal challenges, and widespread outrage. But beneath the emotional response lies a deeper question. What happens when immigration enforcement penetrates the heart of academic institutions? In this video, we explore the origins of the raid, the student response, and what this moment means for universities across America.
Can you believe this is only day 4 of Trump 2.0? But it turns out Republicans have already found the new star of their next campaign commercial.
I'm not going back to Haiti. Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
That has to be fake. It almost sounds fake, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't even, how can that be real? Well, it is. By the way, that Biden fanboy is a Haitian gangbanger with 17 prior convictions. And Fox's Bill Malugin spent the night embedded with ICE operations in the Boston area as they grounded up all these criminals.
Boston University became ground zero for one of the largest campus deportation operations in U.S. history. ICE teams coordinated a tactical sweep, surrounding key university buildings and detaining students at dawn. Over 1,500 were taken into custody, many without warning, preparation, or the chance to respond. What began as a routine day turned into chaos, prompting legal scholars to question the constitutionality of such a sweeping operation. For many, it marked a chilling turning point, a stark reminder that even prestigious institutions are not immune to federal immigration enforcement. Students were identified through campus records, surveillance footage, and internal documentation. No alarms, no announcements, just quiet precision. ICE moved fast, giving students no time to pack, contact loved ones, or seek legal help. By the time most realized what was happening, it was over. No hearings, no appeals, just buses. Targeting a major university shocked even veteran observers. Such operations are typically confined to border zones, not ivy-covered campuses. But that line has now been crossed, sending a clear message. Nowhere is off limits. What happened at Boston University may become the model for future enforcement on college campuses nationwide.
Too many communities have seen it happen right in their own neighborhoods, where masked individuals who are not wearing badges openly or identification are coming in unmarked vehicles, jumping out, snatching people off the streets. I'm just stating that these tactics are the opposite of what makes communities safer.
She should go out on a ride-along with Bill Malugin, who just last month in Boston, in one 24-hour period, half a dozen criminal aliens who committed horrific crimes.
But the thing is, they don't care that the protesters and the rioters are wearing masks, but they're upset that ICE is wearing face coverings. Why? Because they're being doxxed and their families being targeted.
Those detained came from all over the world, some on expired visas, others undocumented, many on scholarships or academic tracks. Some had called the U.S. home since childhood. The raid didn't discriminate by discipline or degree. STEM researchers, law students, undergrads, they were all pulled from classrooms and labs, their academic journeys interrupted. But the fallout wasn't just legal, it was deeply personal. This wasn't just deportation. For many, it was forced exile from the lives they had built. Lecture halls fell silent. Labs were left unfinished. Over 1,500 students vanished overnight, leaving behind unanswered questions, empty seats, and shattered futures. Those who remained were gripped with fear, unsure if they were next. Professors who had mentored the deported students scrambled to provide emotional support while quietly questioning. Could the university have done more? Should it have? In a nation where higher education has long served as a refuge for dreamers and scholars, this raid forced a painful reckoning. Where does a university's duty end, and where must it begin? These questions now echo across campuses nationwide, no longer theoretical but real.
1 month ago, Homan began a back and forth with Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox, saying in this fiery CPAC speech,
I read a story last night, the police commissioner of Boston. You said you doubled down on not helping the law enforcement officers of ICE.
Sarah Sherman-Stokes with the Immigrants' Rights and Human Trafficking Program at BU School of Law says that put a bullseye on Greater Boston.
It seems like ICE is targeting the city of Boston because the city of Boston has dared to stand up to their tactics of bullying and aggression.
People living here say ICE raids have been going on since the Trump administration started. They say immigrants are being targeted, including non-criminals and people who have updated documents. We're live in Chelsea. Danae Bucci,
The raid has ignited fierce legal and ethical debates. Critics argue the students were denied due process, taken without a chance to defend themselves in court. From a moral standpoint, the operation is being condemned as a betrayal of academic freedom and human dignity. These weren't criminals. They were students, some of the best and brightest minds in the country. But in ICE's eyes, even a visa violation is a legal breach. And that raises a larger question the nation must confront. At what point does enforcement cross the line into injustice?
Cause that MS-13 gang member's friend or acquaintance to also get arrested by ICE. Now they're both going to get deported.
Yeah, ICE is coming. And what was the reaction, Bill, if you got any from some of the residents in these communities?
ICE's presence at Boston University marks a new phase in immigration enforcement. No longer restricted to border towns or detention centers, agents are now targeting institutions once thought to be safe havens. University campuses are becoming the latest frontier, high-value targets where undocumented students pursue knowledge, opportunity, and safety. Supporters argue that the law applies everywhere. Critics say actions like this erode academic freedom and community trust. But one thing is clear. This raid delivered a powerful message. Education is no longer a shield.
It is no secret that immigration is a top agenda item for the Trump administration. Today, CBS News learned that federal authorities are threatening to investigate state officials who don't comply with immigration authorities. So what is the law here in Massachusetts, and can the state shield migrants who are here illegally? WBZ's Christina Rex went out to find out.
Officials here follow the law. We're not a sanctuary state.
Right from the governor's mouth, saying Massachusetts is not a sanctuary state, as President Trump's Department of Justice plans to investigate state officials who don't comply with his immigration policies.
I'm not concerned. I have no reason to be concerned.
Healy says nothing has changed and that local police in Massachusetts focus on fighting crime, including crimes committed by undocumented immigrants. But just being in the state and undocumented is not a crime. It's a civil violation.
Well, detainers is a different issue, and currently it's governed by the SJC's decision.
This 2017 decision by the state's highest court, which says Massachusetts law provides no authority for court officers to arrest and hold an individual because of a federal immigration detainer.
What has frequently happened is that ICE is effectively asking local law enforcement to take on the role of holding someone for an unconstitutional period of time.
So our law says our local police don't arrest or detain people just because of their immigration status. In Watertown, the police chief is reaffirming that message.
And what I want people to know is I want them to feel comfortable and safe to come to us.
In town, there's a hotel filled with newly arrived migrants. The chief wants them to know they can report crimes without fear of retribution.
Boston University's leadership quickly issued a public statement condemning the raids, pledging legal support, and promising to protect the students who remain. But to many within the community, it wasn't enough. Why hadn't stronger protections been in place before ICE came knocking? Administrators promised a full review of the university's cooperation with federal agencies, but for those already deported, those promises came too late. The raid revealed a painful truth. Universities are walking a tightrope between federal compliance and moral conscience, and that balance has never been more fragile. To many, this wasn't just about one university. This was a signal of a larger shift, a more aggressive federal policy. Boston University became the battlefield where academic sanctuary clashed with political enforcement. Advocates warn that this could be the beginning of a new era, one where campuses across the country are no longer safe for undocumented students who've spent years building their lives in the U.S. Lawmakers are now under pressure, with urgent calls for reform aimed at protecting undocumented scholars. This may be the spark that reignites a national conversation about fair, education-based immigration policy.
Law, he says, not a protest or a reaction to a new administration.
We do not enforce federal immigration laws. We don't go around doing raids and checking people's papers. That's not part of what we do.
And that lawyer and immigration expert who I spoke to explained to me that if the Trump administration doubles down and tries to get Massachusetts officials in trouble for not enforcing federal immigration law, the Trump administration could face a number of lawsuits from a number of different states.
The Boston University raid brought immigration policy directly to the steps of higher education. Supporters called it long overdue enforcement. Critics called it institutional betrayal. Now, lawmakers face growing pressure to act. Will new protections be put in place for undocumented scholars? Or will ICE continue expanding its reach into America's campuses? This moment may mark a turning point, where the battle over immigration is no longer fought at the border, but at the gates of the nation's universities. For the students deported from Boston University, the future is now uncertain. Years of academic work wiped out in an instant. Some will try to restart their lives in countries they barely remember. Others will fight complex legal battles for the chance to return. But even for those who win, the scars remain. Friendships, professors, research left behind. Support networks and legal aid groups are mobilizing, but the emotional toll is irreversible. For many of these students, this wasn't just deportation. It was an erasure of the lives they were building.
Bring in Tricia McLaughlin. She's the DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. I think it's quite alarming. As Bill Melugin was reporting that, Tricia, he and I said, this was all in one day. And this is just one state, one city, one state. How much bigger is this across the country?
Dana, it's even bigger. And I do want to note that these protesters are emboldened by politicians like Tim Walz, who likens our brave ICE enforcement officers to the Gestapo and to Nazis. A Democrat representative, Dan Goldman, out of New York yesterday just held a press conference, again likening our ICE enforcement officers to the Gestapo. Our ICE officers are facing a 400% increase in assaults against them. Meanwhile, they're just trying to make American communities safer.
The Boston University raid has already shifted the national dialogue on immigration. Colleges across the U.S. are now urgently reviewing how they handle student data, respond to ICE inquiries, and defend undocumented students. ICE claims the operation was simply the enforcement of federal law. But the backlash shows that law without empathy can trigger consequences that extend far beyond its intended targets. If raids like this continue, universities may become the next battleground, where issues of identity, access, and civil rights are contested. The question now, how far will this go?
As Bill mentioned, just in the last week alone, we've arrested off the streets of Boston MS-13 gang members, Tren de Aragua, convicted murderers, child rapists, truly the worst of the worst, who have been in our American streets with impunity for the last 4 years. And Dana, what's important to remember is that these sanctuary city politicians, their policies create magnets for these criminal aliens to come into these communities because they know that there's not repercussions at the hands of the city and that the city will in fact hamstring our ICE enforcement officers.
As the dust settles, one truth remains. This was more than a deportation. It was a rupture between law enforcement and education, between security and sanctuary. The students removed were not just names on a list. They were classmates, innovators, contributors to research and campus life. Their absence is felt in classrooms, dormitories, and dining halls. And while ICE insists it was simply doing its job, millions now wonder, if even students aren't safe, who is?